Okay, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Samso. Today we've got Steve Rosewell here with me. He's actually from a company called Mak Corp. Mak Corp just deals with resource data.
ASX resource data, that's correct now.
I thought this is actually quite an interesting conversation to have with everybody trying to find information on the ASX, on companies, on personalities that relate to the companies. Steve contacted me I think 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we caught up, and I like the story. I think it's I'll let Steve sort of introduce himself and then maybe run into the story, and then we can have a discussion after that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Noel, and thanks for having me. I'll just give you a bit of background on Mak Corp Data Resources. I started investing in the mining ASX mining space back in 2015, and one of the frustrations I had, and many investors have, is trying to find stocks and research at an affordable price. Most of my competition are out there, you're spending $20,000, $30,000 plus on a good research platform. So I started doing my own research and started building a platform, and I wanted to be able to search on commodities. So if I wanted to look at lithium or gold or copper or any type of commodity, I could create a list quite quickly and see which companies were involved in that commodity. What I also started to build was more project information, so people could see what stage the project is at. So in other words, is it in exploration where it's a high risk, or is it starting to develop through the study stages, scoping, feasibility, PFS, BFS, and obviously getting more closer to production in construction, so all the project stages. So the more you develop the project, the less risk it becomes, and our data captures all that, along with all the resource and reserves. So if you're looking for a company and you try and search Google or something, it could take you hours and days to create a list. Using Mak Corp platform, you can create it within seconds, depending on what your criteria is now.
I mean, my first introduction to a similar system like this was then it was called Intiera or something like that.
Yes, now
it's called it's in that SNL house, you want to call it, they're a big firm.
Yes.
I mean, when I started doing all my insights, obviously, Google, ComSec announcements and things like that was your first port of call. And then what I used to do is just go through all the years and follow, and obviously I have an idea what the history is about.
Yes.
So I can go back in history and follow the announcements and what they said, and sometimes you can actually find journeys of projects from one company, and then they've divested, they've JV'd, they've dropped it, somebody else picked it up, and there's similar projects. So
yes, and there's some good stories.
Yeah, and I think that's where, I mean, when we spoke, I found that was quite useful, because I thought, hey, that's a one-stop shop maybe to some degree, to trying to source a project. I'll give you a live example. Was when Artemis recently announced that they've got this new project from Rincon, I think the company. They had a spread of projects.
Yes.
And
commodities.
And commodities. So I had a look at one of their projects. It was they now called it Kiwikara, and I looked at it. I said, "Oh, I know this area," and I went and searched, and obviously they helped me by saying Ashburton had it before.
Yes. So you spoke with Ed, mate?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it's all sort of out there, and you can see where they've come from. And my interest came was I actually looked at projects in the Arunta complex, the area, but it was with ABM Resources at that time. Yes. They had a big swag of tenements there, and at that time I think they were pushing it out to IGO. I was into tantalum. There's a lot of tantalum and tungsten and tin, so that sparked my interest.
Lithium, I suppose, as well.
Well, yeah, but lithium wasn't sort of the space at that time. So I sort of had that interest going through there, and And you know, when we spoke, I thought it would be interesting if I just input input something like that, and I could actually see the connections.
Yes.
I assume that
exactly
would be the
what
case.
you can do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's why I thought, you know, you make a good conversation for us, because the audience that I have are the ones, especially the ones that are looking for information.
Yes, and there's now quite a few companies around Artemis's tenements now.
Yeah,
it's a growing area, the Pilbara. You know, you've got the iron ore, Pilbara gold, lithium. Yeah, and a lot's happened in a short period of time.
Yeah, and I think in every company, in every search, they do that. I mean, there's the neurology issue, or the potential people that have been working on that project maybe a decade ago, 2 decades away, that they ran out of money for whatever reason, they didn't follow up. And I mean, I'm going back to when I was sitting as an MD of a company looking for projects, or a geo looking for projects. You would then want to go, oh, you know, I remember that so and so did that, and you could type that search in, and then that helped you along.
Give you the history.
Yeah, yes. I think that's what really attracted me to your product.
Yes.
Then I looked at your price, and I thought, it's affordable. You know, it's affordable for most people. I mean, in Tierra, when they're
from retail up to corporate.
Yeah.
Retail investors, I'm talking.
Yeah. I think maybe you could touch on that, maybe, and tell us how this all developed, maybe.
Yes. So Mak Corp's been going now for about 3 years, and we have a number of subscriptions. As we've been discussing, there's affordable for retail starting at $295 per quarter, and that allows them to full access to the database, to the web platform, and they can do many types of searches, particularly on projects, as we've been talking about. But it's also got all the financials about the companies. So from the last 4 quarterlies to half yearly and annual reports, so you can see how, you know, their cash position and you know, where their focus has been on projects in the last 12 months. You know, they've been spending much money on projects or in other areas, so you can really ascertain you know, where a company's focus is, and what commodity their focus is at. You know, you can have a company that might have, you know, a dozen projects. It's very hard for the investor to determine out of those 12 projects where the focus is. So we're applying data now where people can ascertain which project is the focus for each company and which commodity.
Yeah, one of the things that we touched on when we talked was the item of people who are associated with projects, companies that are no longer apparent on the ASX thing, but are still apparent maybe on the TXX.
Yes.
Or somehow they may be related back as non-exec directors and things like that, for investors who are looking who to avoid. And I mean, we touched on that and how your system was able to pick this up as well. Yeah. Without actually naming names.
Yeah, good point, Noel. Very good point. And that's a good area to discuss as well, is directors. And things you can look at with Mak Corp is what they're paying themselves, so remuneration. What shares have they got in the companies that they're part of? You know, when they're sort of paying themselves reasonably, they've got shares in the company themselves that they've, you know, outlaid their own money, you can start to see that, you know, they've got belief in the company and projects. But there are quite a few, and it's approximately 30% now, where, you know, mining executives don't own any shares, or, you know, focus more on what we call lifestyle now, where they're, you know, paying themselves more on the administration and staff's salaries.
Because I know my network in Southeast Asia, they always have this thing about how money is spent and things like that, and we touched on the fact that you can actually see how much the percentage of the ratio between admin and projects, exactly. You know, things like that.
And that's over the last 12 months. So we've got a percentage of all the companies, excluding production, because they don't provide a cash flow, quarterly cash flow. But you can see all the percentage for the last 12 months. So the lower the percentage, the better that means they're spending more on projects. So on average, you've got, you know, companies spending about 30% on staff and admin, and approximately 70% on projects. Yeah. And that's where investors want to look at, so they know that the companies are focused on their projects.
I mean, that's why it's one of the things, as I said, my networks there, they're always saying, oh, another exploration company. When I was, doing the fundraising, oh, hey, you guys just keep coming in raising money, and then 6 months later, you're raising money. And I try to differentiate how we do it, as opposed to, and why we do it, and as opposed to the difference between other companies who do certain things. It's an education process. And that's what I like about your product. It's an affordable product. It's easy for them to, it's a starting point for them to get some basic knowledge.
Yes.
And if you can say, oh, person ABC or project ABC, they can actually have an ability now to go in there and say, and search.
Yes.
And make some judgment, or at least have the right questions to ask.
Yes.
I think that's very important from an investor point of view. And also, from my point of view, from a company trying to talk to people, if you've got a legit project and legit story, I think it's quite...
And passion, though.
And passion. And yes, people can then verify that on their own, not just saying, Noel said this, or Steve said that, or yep, Jack said that,
That's correct. They've done their own research.
Well, an ability to, whereas yes, before, I think it was really hard for them to do it.
Yes.
Because they're, apart from Googling it, which is... can be quite limited, even though in today's terms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a particular commodity, it's very difficult to use Google to search that, as far as finding companies that are involved.
Yeah.
But having said that, some of the companies that are spending more money on staff and admin, there are some legitimate cases.
Yes. Yeah.
And our data is to provide the information to go back to directors and ask questions. So, for example, there might be a company may not have spent much on projects in the last, 6 months because they're waiting for mining lease approvals or environmental approvals, or they may even have a third party that's helped funding the exploration. So, while we provide the information, always ask questions back to the directors to confirm, so they can explain what is the actual facts.
Yeah. And that's quite a good thing, though. Like, if a company is out there trying to raise money and say, look, we may have all these projects, but we're actually not spending any money, and they can actually, people that can actually search and see for themselves.
Yes.
And the companies can actually provide that kind of information based on your software.
Well, Kidman Resources is a perfect example.
That's right, yeah.
They've spent very little money, if any, in the last 12 months. But why is that? They've got a 50% joint venture partner that's funding all the exploration. But they've spent very little, and also they've been offered to take over their 50% by Wesfarmers have made a recent offer for their 50%.
Yeah.
So it explains why they're not spending any money on projects at the moment.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
So that's sort of the wrap as far as the Mak Corp database is. We can do presentations if people want to have a look at it. Or are looking for any information on any particular mining company, we can help them.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. I mean, look, it's a quick intro. I think I like the story. That's why I wanted to put it out there. I'm sure guys will be either contacting me or going straight on Google and searching yourself. But thanks for your time,
yes,
Steve.
Thanks, Noel. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Good to talk.
All right.